Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak to you about a truth that, though simple, carries the power to change everything in our lives. It's the truth that when we leave everything in God's hands, we step into a place of peace and assurance. I know life can be heavy. You don't need me to tell you about the challenges you're facing. Whether it's in your career, relationships, or dreams you feel aren't coming to fruition, life can leave us feeling uncertain, lost, and tired. But I'm here to remind you today that there's a place, a powerful place, where all your worries can rest. It's the place where you choose to leave everything in God's hands. It's so easy to hold on to control, isn't it? We try to steer our lives, make the plans, and figure it all out. But there's a deeper trust, a faith that goes beyond our understanding, where we learn to say, God, I'm going to trust you even when I don't have all the answers. Trusting God doesn't mean we always understand what's happening, but it means we trust His wisdom more than our own. Faith is the belief that even when we can't see the way, He's already there, preparing the path ahead. What if I told you that true peace comes when you surrender control? Surrender isn't about giving up, it's about giving into something bigger. When we try to control every detail of our lives, we become burdened by the weight of it all. But when we place our hopes, our dreams, our fears, and even our disappointments in God's hands, we can rest. We find peace because we know He's got us. Now, I know waiting can be hard. We want things to happen on our timeline, and when they don't, we start to doubt. But let me remind you of something: God's timing is always better than ours. You may not see it today, but the wait is part of the process. It's in the waiting that our faith grows. It's in the waiting that God prepares us for what He has in store. You may be in a season of waiting right now, but that season is not wasted. It's a season of preparation, growth, and strength. When we face trials, we often wonder, why is this happening to me? But what if the struggles we face are not just obstacles, but opportunities? Every season in life, even the hardest ones, is part of God's greater purpose for us. What you're going through is shaping you, it's refining you, it's creating the person you are meant to be. So don't despise the hard seasons. Trust that God's hand is guiding you even in the midst of the struggle. Prayer is not just about asking for what we want, but it's about giving our worries to God. It's about releasing our anxieties, our fears, and our dreams into His care. When we pray, we align ourselves with His will and His purpose. And here's the beauty of it: when we pray with faith, believing that God is moving even when we can't see it, we activate His power in our lives. Prayer shifts things. Prayer moves mountains. Prayer places everything into His capable hands. You might be wondering, what's the secret to finding peace in this? The secret is simple: surrender. When you choose to leave it all in His hands, you choose peace over worry. You choose trust over fear. You choose assurance over doubt. The world may be full of chaos, but in the hands of God, you can find rest. His hands are bigger than your worries, and His plans are greater than anything you can imagine. So today, I encourage you to leave everything in His hands. Your dreams, your fears, your heartbreaks, your confusion, let it all go. Trust that God will use it for good. His timing is perfect, and His love for you is endless. Walk confidently, knowing that His hands are guiding you, protecting you, and working things out in ways you can't even imagine. You don't have to carry it all by yourself. Leave it in His hands. We all know that life can be overwhelming. It's filled with moments that challenge us, push us to our limits, and sometimes make us question whether we can keep going. We face the pressures of work, relationships, and personal expectations, and the weight of it all can feel unbearable at times. Maybe you're in a season of uncertainty right now, trying to make sense of what's happening around you, feeling lost or burdened by unanswered questions. You might feel like you're running on empty, unable to keep up with the demands of life. And it's in those moments when everything seems out of control that we begin to doubt our strength, our direction, and even our worth. But I want to remind you of something: you are not alone in these struggles. Every person at some point in their life faces challenges that test them to their core. Whether it's the grief of losing a loved one, the heartbreak of unfulfilled dreams, or the frustration of a road that seems to go nowhere, we all encounter difficulties that make us wonder if we'll ever find our way through. It's easy to become overwhelmed by the weight of our circumstances, to feel as if we are carrying it all by ourselves. And in those moments, it's tempting to think that we have to figure everything out on our own, that we have to hold on to control in order to make it through. But what if I told you that the secret to overcoming life's challenges is not about holding on tighter, but learning to let go? What if the breakthrough you've been praying for comes not when you push harder, but when you trust deeper? The truth is, you don't have to carry it all on your own. In fact, some of the greatest breakthroughs in our lives happen when we stop trying to control every detail and instead place it in the hands of someone greater than ourselves. You see, life's challenges don't have to define us. They can refine us. They can shape us into the people we are meant to be. But we have to be willing to trust that. Trusting beyond understanding is one of the most powerful steps you can take in your journey, yet it's also one of the hardest. It's easy to trust when everything is going according to plan, when life feels predictable, and when the path ahead is clear. But the real test of trust comes when life throws us off course, when things don't make sense, and when we can't see what's ahead. In those moments, our natural instinct is to try to figure it all out, to hold on tighter, to demand answers. But I want to ask you this: what if the key to peace isn't in understanding everything, but in trusting someone who sees what we cannot? I know that sometimes it's difficult to let go of the need for clarity. We want to know why things are happening the way they are. We want to understand the reason behind our pain, our confusion, or the delay in our dreams. But trust doesn't always come with an explanation. It doesn't always come with answers that fit neatly into our minds. Trust is knowing deep in our hearts that even when we don't understand the how or the why, there is someone who does. There's a bigger plan at work, a purpose unfolding that we might not be able to see from our limited perspective. When we trust beyond understanding, we let go of the need to have every detail in our hands. It's about surrendering the need for control, releasing the weight of trying to make everything work on our own. Trust says, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know the one who holds my future. And I know that no matter what, I am safe in his hands. It's a trust that goes beyond the circumstances. It's a trust that says, even though I can't see the end of the road, I believe that there is something good waiting for me on the other side. Think about the most difficult times in your life, the moments when you felt lost, when you didn't know how things would work out, when fear took hold of your heart. But somehow, some way, you made it through. You might not have had all the answers at the time, but you survived. You came through stronger, wiser, and more resilient than you ever imagined. And that's the beauty of trust. It doesn't always come with immediate understanding, but it always leads to growth. Trusting beyond understanding isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily choice. It's the choice to lean into faith, even when you can't trace the steps ahead. It's the willingness to believe that you don't need all the answers because you have something far more powerful, a God who works all things together for good, a God who makes a way when there seems to be no way. And sometimes that's all you need to move forward. So when life doesn't make sense, when the road is unclear, and when the weight of uncertainty feels like surrendering control is one of the hardest things we can do, yet it's one of the most freeing. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to be in charge, to take the reins, to make things happen. We're told that if we want to succeed, we have to be the ones driving the bus, making the decisions, and controlling every outcome. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we must have everything figured out, that the weight of our dreams, our goals, and even our very lives rests on our ability to control them. But here's the truth: holding on to control often leaves us drained, anxious, and overwhelmed. It is in the act of surrendering that we discover the true power of peace and purpose. When we try to control everything, we are essentially telling ourselves that we can manage every circumstance, that we can manipulate the future, that we can outsmart every obstacle. But the reality is we don't have that kind of power. No matter how hard we try, there are things beyond our control. The timing of life's events, the actions of others, and even the direction of our own hearts sometimes feel like they're not in our hands. And that's okay. We weren't meant to carry it all. We weren't meant to have all the answers. What we were meant to do was trust, to let go of the weight of control and hand it over to the one who holds everything in his hands. Surrendering control doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean we stop pursuing our dreams or stop taking action. What it means is that we release the need to be the ultimate authority over every outcome. It means we stop holding so tightly to the illusion that we can control every part of our lives and start trusting that God's plan is greater than our own. When we surrender, we stop fighting against the flow of life. We stop resisting the challenges, the delays, the unexpected turns, and instead we choose to walk in faith, knowing that whatever happens is part of a bigger story that is unfolding for our good. It's a shift in perspective. Instead of waking up each day in a state of anxiety, trying to figure out how we're going to control the day ahead, we can choose to wake up in a state of peace, knowing that we don't have to have everything figured out. We don't have to solve every problem before breakfast. We can trust that as we move through our day, God is with us, guiding us and leading us through what we cannot see. Surrendering control doesn't mean we're passive. It means we become active participants in the life God is calling us to, not by trying to control everything, but by allowing ourselves to be led. In moments of uncertainty, when we feel the urge to take back control, we can remind ourselves that our lives are not our own to manipulate. We were created for more than just surviving or struggling through life. We were created to thrive, to grow, to become all that we are meant to be. But that requires trust. It requires letting go of the illusion that we can make everything happen on our own and stepping into the freedom of trusting that God is in control. When we surrender, we find peace. We find a rest that surpasses understanding. No longer do we have to worry about what we can't control or fret over what's beyond our reach. Instead, we can rest in the knowledge that there is someone greater who is guiding every step we take, and that His plan for our lives is far better than anything we could ever orchestrate on our own. Surrender is not a one-time decision, but a continual act of faith. Each day, we choose to give up the need to control, to release our fears, and to trust that God will lead us where we need to go. The more we surrender, the more we experience the peace that comes with knowing that we don't have to do it all ourselves. We don't have to carry the weight of the world. God's hands are bigger and His heart is for us. So let go of the control that is weighing you down and let God take the lead. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to trust that He already has. God's timing is something that often doesn't make sense to us, especially when we're caught in the middle of our own plans, dreams, and expectations. We are taught to think that things should happen according to our schedule, that if we work hard enough, push enough, and plan enough, things will unfold just as we imagine. But the truth is, God's timing doesn't work on our clock. It doesn't follow our timetable, and that can be frustrating. It can leave us questioning, why isn't it happening now? Why is it taking so long? But here's the beautiful thing about God's timing. It's always perfect, even when we don't understand it. I know the feeling of waiting, of sitting in the discomfort of uncertainty, wondering when the breakthrough will come, when the doors will open, when the promises will be fulfilled. It's easy to feel like time is slipping away, like we're falling behind, or like our dreams are never going to come true. But what we forget in those moments is that we're not waiting alone. God is never idle while we wait. He is always working, always aligning things in ways we can't see, preparing us for what's ahead. It's like the seeds that grow deep in the soil while nothing appears to be happening above ground. Below the surface, roots are stretching, branches are forming, and the foundation is being built. God is doing things in the unseen, preparing the way, and in the perfect moment, everything will bloom. Sometimes we think we know what's best for us. We think we know exactly when and how something should happen. But what we often forget is that God sees the bigger picture. He knows what we need when we need it, and how we need it, and how we need it. His perspective is far greater than ours, and He understands that timing isn't just about getting what we want when we want it. It's about the journey, the growth, the preparation, and the timing of the world around us. What if the delay in your life is not a setback, but a setup for something even greater? What if what you're waiting for is being prepared right now, and the waiting is simply the timing? God's purpose is at work in every season of our lives, whether it's a season of joy or a season of struggle. We often think of purpose as something we discover when everything is going well, the moments when life feels aligned, when things are falling into place, when we can see the fruit of our labor. But what if I told you that God's purpose is just as alive in the hard seasons as it is in the good ones? That the times of trial, confusion, and waiting are not times when we are disconnected from His purpose, but rather times when He is refining us, shaping us, and preparing us for something greater than we could imagine. Think about the seasons in nature. Each one has its own purpose, its own unique beauty, even though some seasons are harder to understand than others. Winter might feel long and cold, but it's the time when the earth rests and prepares for the new life that spring will bring. If we could see it only through our limited human perspective, we might wonder what purpose there is in the cold and barren landscape. But beneath the surface, life is already stirring, preparing for a new season of growth. And so it is with us. Even when we feel like we're in a season of winter, when things feel dormant or even painful, God is still at work doing things we can't see, but that will bear fruit in the future. God's purpose doesn't just show up in the victories or the moments of triumph. It's woven through the challenges, the heartbreaks, the detours, and the waiting. In fact, it's often in those very moments that we are shaped the most. Think about the trials that have come into your life, some that seemed unbearable, others that you never saw coming. Yet those very struggles often brought out strength in you you didn't know you had, or clarity about who you are and what you're truly capable of. Maybe they taught you patience, resilience, or the value of depending on God in a way you never would have learned had life been easy. These are not wasted moments. These are the moments that form the foundation of your purpose. Sometimes we feel like we've been sidelined in the midst of our struggles. We look around and see others moving forward, achieving their dreams, living the life we've always wanted. It's easy. There is an undeniable power in prayer and faith, two forces that have the ability to change the course of our lives. Prayer is not just a routine or a ritual. It is the direct line to the Creator of the universe, the one who knows our hearts, our fears, our hopes, and our struggles. It's more than just asking for what we want. It's about building a relationship with God, aligning ourselves with His will, and trusting that He hears us even when we don't see immediate answers. When we pray, we release our burdens into His hands and invite His presence into our situations. And when we add faith to that prayer, faith that He is at work, even when we cannot see it, something powerful happens. Prayer is not just words spoken into the air, it's a declaration of trust. When we pray, we are declaring that we believe there is a force greater than ourselves at work in our lives. We are surrendering our control, our anxieties, and our doubts, and choosing to trust that God is listening, that He is responding, and that He is already making. There is a profound peace that comes in the act of surrender, but it's not a peace we often talk about. It's not the peace that comes from having everything figured out or from knowing exactly how things will unfold. It's not the peace that arises from controlling every detail or forcing life to go the way we think it should. No, the peace I'm talking about is the peace that comes when we finally let go of the illusion that we can control it all, and we choose to trust that God is bigger than our fears, our plans, and even our struggles. It's the kind of peace that washes over us when we stop trying to fight the current of life and instead choose to flow with it, knowing that we are being guided by something greater than ourselves. The truth is, we were never meant to carry all the burdens we often try to hold on to. We weren't meant to shoulder every worry, every question, every doubt. And yet, how often do we find ourselves grasping tightly to everything, feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders, and trying to control what we simply can't? The result is always the same: anxiety, exhaustion, and the constant fear that if we let go for even a moment, everything will fall apart. But here's the secret peace is found when we surrender. It's in that moment of release when we stop gripping so tightly that we can finally feel the weight lift off. When we surrender, we make the choice to trust God with what we cannot change. We let go of the worry over what the future holds, knowing that He has already gone ahead of us and is working all things together for our good. It doesn't mean that everything suddenly becomes perfect or that all our problems disappear. It means that we no longer have to face them alone. It means we can rest in the knowledge that God's plans for us are good, even when the path ahead is unclear, even when the storm rages around us. There's a strange kind of strength that comes in surrender. When we let go of control, we don't become weak, we become free. We free ourselves from the constant pressure to be everything and do everything. We free ourselves from the lie that we are alone in this journey, and in that freedom, peace enters our hearts, peace that doesn't depend on our circumstances, but on the unshakable truth that God is in control. His hands are bigger than our worries, and His wisdom is greater than our understanding. Surrendering is not about giving up, it's about giving in to something far more powerful. It's about choosing to trust that the one who created us knows us better than we know ourselves, and that He has a plan for our lives that is bigger than anything we could ever imagine. When we surrender, we give ourselves permission to rest, to breathe, to stop striving for what we cannot control, and to trust that God is working even when we don't see it. In the moments when life feels too much, when the weight of it all seems unbearable, choose to surrender. Choose to trust. In that choice, you will find a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that steadies your heart, a peace that steadies your heart, a peace that fills the spaces of. As we walk through life, we will face moments of uncertainty, challenge, and even doubt. But in each of these moments, there is a powerful invitation to surrender control, surrender our timelines, and surrender our understanding. It is in this surrender that we find true peace, knowing that God's purpose is at work in every season and that His timing is always perfect. When we trust Him with our lives, when we trust that He is bigger than our problems, and when we surrender our need to control every outcome, we allow space for faith to grow and for peace to reign in our hearts. Remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Trust that God sees you. He hears you. He hears you, and He is working in ways you can't yet understand. His plan is unfolding and His timing is always right. So let go, trust deeper, and embrace the peace that comes with surrender. Because when you do, you will find that in every season and in every moment, God is with you, guiding you and filling you with a peace that will carry you through.